Hey everybody, how's everybody doing today? Welcome to a Friday edition of my live stream. Normally I do Thursdays, but we had Thanksgiving here in the U.S. So took the day off, spent it with the family, and ate lots, way too much. Every year about this time, uh, usually it's about this time is when I start packing on some weight, and then it takes all year to get it off again, and then in a matter of like a few weeks, it's all back. It's like this vicious cycle. I don't get it. But every year, a little bit more stays on than comes off. I mean, I look at some videos I did from like 3, 4 years ago, and I was a good 20 pounds lighter, I think, back then. And I just don't, I mean, I know why. I'm not exercising and I'm eating too much, but it just, it's funny how just time and weight kind of creeps up on you. And every year I promise I'm gonna go back to, running or exercising or whatever. And uh, I don't know why it gets harder every year. It's like every year after I, excuse me, after I turn 50, every year feels like 2 years in terms of just, you know, my body deteriorating. It just, because it used to be, you could just go out, lift a few weights and your muscles will start popping out, like when you're young. And then when you get older, it's like it takes 10 times longer to get the same results. Uh, but oh well, what are you gonna do, right? I mean, the only inspiration I get really is when I look at the uh, marathon runners, right? And I look at the times that they did, and you see these people, much older than I am, 5, 10 years in some cases, running marathons in times that people half their age, right? You know, and it's just amazing how fit people can stay no matter what age they are, at least for a marathon, and doing Ironmans. When I was in I think it was my mid 30s, like 34, 35, I was considering doing an Ironman, like, the 25-mile bike, 5-mile run, 2-mile swim, whatever that was. I can't even remember now. I was considering it. What held me back was the swim because I'm really not a good swimmer, and I could swim 2 miles in a pool, doing a couple hundred laps. I forget how many laps it was to do 2 miles, but in open water, wow, just hurts my shoulders and neck thinking about it. That's a lot of turning, right? Uh, but anyhow, this is not about getting older in life, right? This is a photography chat. But it's just kind of what's been weighing on my mind all day. When I went out and I washed my cars today because they haven't been washed. I've only washed them once this year, and now I'm sore. I'm like, why? Why? I'm just washing my car. So, and I'm sorry for starting late. Let me see who's here. Let's see. We have John and Peter. John, you'd say, "Oh, thank you for the coffees, John. I really appreciate that. That really helps me out, especially this month because it's been dry, crickets for just real jobs, So uh, every little bit helps me a lot. And oh, thank you, Randy. Happy Thanksgiving to you. I hope everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving. And driving in snow, John? Seriously? Oh, and it's 52 degrees. Yeah, it's like 60 something here today. It's really nice out. That's why I washed my cars because I just wanted to get out of the way before it gets too cold. And tomorrow maybe I'll wax them so it'll just have a good coat of wax on it before winter starts. Marjorie, good to see you. Oh, the COVID kilos. Oh my God. You'd think like staying home, you'd be like working out more, right? Because I have a treadmill and I got dumbbells. I don't have any excuses. I certainly have the time. Randy, you feel good at 66. That's awesome. I hope because if you let yourself go, I mean, especially I don't know how many people here under younger than me. It seems like everybody in my audience is older than me, so I'm like the young whippersnapper complaining, which sounds ridiculous, right? um, to run, I would need motivation. Benny Hill had, yeah. Well, all he did was speed up the film, right, DeMorgan? And Matu is Matuz. I think it's pronounced Matuz. You got to pronounce that out for me phonetically. I am just, I'm dying on all those syllables. But hi, thanks for coming in, and hopefully I helped you out on, I think you sent me a Facebook message, and I didn't get back, I got back to you on all of them except this one. You were asking about the 40 to 150 kit lens, the f4. It's like, you said where you are, it's about $150. Yeah, definitely get that lens. It's no problem on the EM1 Mark II. It's a great lens. For 150 bucks, you will have no regrets. Here in the US, it's like $99 right now. And then DeMorgan says 70 doesn't feel bad if you forget the pain, right? Oh. And you know, the other thing I did, I was, you know, I went up to see my sister and my nephews were there. And they had this Oculus, like some kind of virtual reality headset. I played for about 10 minutes and then I didn't move for about an hour after that. Because it was some kind of shooter game where you're shooting people, and that's the one that I played with Oculus. Wow, I want one so bad. Then I went online to see how much they are. It's like, oh my God. It's like $400 to start, and then they go up to about $800 or $900, and I'm like, come on. I mean, it's really cool, but come on. Ugh. And that's not even with any of the games that you would want to have with it, right? You got to buy the games separately. But yeah, that's kind of on my Christmas wish list now. It's an Oculus or HTC Vive or whatever. They have a few different kinds. That's really cool. And Randy, oh yeah, I saw Randy. Randy, I saw your wind turbines photos. They're really cool. I think you put them on your Flickr page. Let me show that to everybody because that is cool. Randy's doing some sort of time lapse, not time lapse, but stacking of wind turbine images and making them look like petals on a flower. Let's see. It's on your Flickr page, I know, because I went there. Randy, let me see. I should just bookmark it because when the feed comes up, I see your pictures time to time, but then, uh, here it is. So yeah, check these out, everyone. These are really, really cool. And you can see he's down here. I searched for Randy instead of Randall. But yeah, Randall Scott Dunphy. So he took, I don't know, 30 or 40 images and then stacked them using a astrophotography software for stacking. And yeah, it's really cool. That almost looks like a dandelion kind of, but white, right? Oh crap, you guys can't see anything. Hold on. Let me go back. My bad. Yeah, check this out. These are really cool. Oh, and there's his Flickr address there, Randall Scott Dunphy. If you search for him on Flickr, you'll find these. Yeah, this one's really cool. So good job, Randy. I mean, really amazing. These are like this is what photography is all about, right? Just going out and and using your creativity to come up with something that you can call your own. Because I've never seen anything like this before, you know. Maybe you got inspiration from something that, you know, maybe there's 1,000 of these kind of photos, but I've never seen anything like it myself. And it was certainly a creative way to achieve this effect by stacking them in your astrophotography software, right? So yeah, I recommend you guys check that out. You know, look for some stuff. Oh, Rick is here. Hey, Rick, how are you? Glad to see you. Rick Bear is here. Rick's been kind of in and out with different issues going on between him and Magrat, but I'm glad you're here, Rick. Good to see you. And Eddie, and oh my goodness, you know, I think I've seen you once or twice, but I never said hello. So hi. uh, I remember you used to come in all the time on the chats, and then there's kind of a window where I didn't see you for a while, and then the last couple I saw your name, and I just the chat went by so fast I didn't stop and say hello, so I'll take some time. Uh, Barry Ainge, walking every day at 72, luckily pain-free. Awesome. It's Matthew. It's just Matthew, but it's spelled like this it's like a trick question, you know. My name is this, and then you try and it's not. It's Matthew. It's not Matuez or Matus. Matus. Oh, I get it. I see it now. Matus. All right. Awesome. 2,000 photos and 8 hours of processing to make 8 shots. Wow. Wow. That's amazing. You should print some of those large and sell them, man, somewhere like on I don't even know where to sell prints. I've never really done it. I used to do, or I probably still have an account at Fine Art America from when I started photography and I thought I could take a picture. But oh, that's funny. Let me see. fineartamerica.com. I don't even know what my login is. Let's see if Google remembers. Nope. It's probably been reset. Yeah. Let me search for my name. Ah, there's no chance of me finding it. Oh well. I thought I'd show you a couple of pictures from like 6 or 7 years ago when I thought I could take a picture, but if I look at them now, they're laughable. It says here 350 photos per image. Wow, Randy, I believe it. So you had to be standing there for hours. I mean, well, maybe not. If you're taking one shot every second, 350 seconds, that's only about 6 minutes, right? In theory. In practice, it's probably like more than that, but that's cool. Someone bought me a $500 ticket. I have to dress up, but I get to drink some very special bourbon. Oh, that's cool. I missed that. I missed that conversation. So, and Marjorie's asking, speaking of stacking, what's the difference between stacking and bracketing? Bracketing are just the individual images and can refer and can be different kinds, right? You can bracket exposure, so you can take pictures at different exposures. Excuse me. You can bracket, you know, white balance. You can bracket by focus, so you can take pictures at different focus points. And then stacking is actually what you do with all those bracketed pictures typically. Is where you take all those images you took with various bracketing techniques and put them back together into a single image. Usually, that's what stacking is. Like focus stacking, what you do is you bracket different focus points, right? And then now let's say you have 10 images, And then you go into software and you stack them back together to get one final image that's sharp across, you know, the entire range, the depth of field. That's the main difference. There might be some other variations of that, but that's generally when people talk about bracketing and stacking, that's what it is. And I saw something like that in the 60s, but it wasn't real. Oh my God, that's funny. I know what you're talking about, though. And Rick says, "Hi, Rob. Magrat's vet is very pleased. Good. I know you were mixing some cheese or something with her medicine to make her eat it, right?" Oh, wait, but you said you found some new kibble dry cat food that absorbs her meds so she doesn't get a nasty taste, so she's enjoying her med. Oh, good. Good. Because, yeah, having to give her cheese every day, that can get kind of expensive. Randy says, "You've been with fine art for years and never a sale." Yeah, I know. My buddy Walter sold a couple of prints on fine art. Uh, but I don't know, you know, open up a gallery. There you go. like Peter Lick. Open up a gallery, get some fancy lighting and some awesome sales reps. You'll sell some. Got to be more like 60 frames per second. I don't know. You'd have to ask Randy. Maybe, you know what I'll do, Randy, is as a project of my own. Of course, I don't have any windmills out here where I live. I couldn't even do it if I wanted to. But I wonder if be a fun project for me to try, because I have the gist of what you did, but I haven't actually done it. And use star stacks. Yeah, I think that's a free software you can get online. Star Stack is an astrophotography software for stacking images. You could probably do it in Photoshop, Edian, but because I've stacked like 40 images together in Photoshop to do a moonshot. Um, but I think Star Stacks might be easier than Photoshop, and it's free. And good day, robtrek. Oh, hey, Beryl, how are you? And David Crooks, good to see you. And let's see. I think that's everybody. John is here. DeMorgan. Chris Meinster, hi. And I'm just making sure. Dave Nelson, Peter, Paul Celarou, David Tellett. Oh, hey, how are you? I need to buy that lens. It's probably gone now. David Tellett gave me a Pen F-T film camera, but I need to get a lens for it. I should have I'd have it by now if I ordered it when I was talking to you. Of course, I still don't have my stock for I have my Manfrotto 55 Pro tripod thing over here, but it's missing the platform for the stock. So I'm using it as a, I got to show you this setup. But I got that from David Crooks. What's wrong with you? Oh, it's not you, it's me. I got batteries, and I got power. Yeah. So I got this 055, and then I connected a just one of those clamps and an articulating arm, and and this is a 1/4 20 screw. So that's how I got these. That's how I did that video with the Panasonic. And I was comparing the bodies. I had this camera mounted up on this stalk right here. So, yeah, I'm really happy about that. So, you know, I'm already putting it to good use, David. But David Crooks. But David, tell it I need to get a lens. I guess I could just use any lens and do lens whacking with it, right? Where you just hold the lens in front, but then the pictures are blurry. Until the real lens comes in anyway. Okay, let me scroll back down. Oh, Plato, how are you? Bob Tishmars, good to see you. Wow. Rick said Thanksgiving memories on the flight back. I guess he came to the US for Thanksgiving. You're on a 747 with only 6 passengers, first class service all day. They should have just let you move up to first class. 6 people on the plane says, come on up, let's private party. Because it's at least 5 or 6 hours back to London, right? Dave, you notice I don't have my Star Trek mug today because I had a little coffee before I started the stream. So I just have water today. Ah, I need to I need to get my microphone tuned again because when I swallow, you guys can hear it now. I used to have it so that when I swallow, you didn't hear it because I hate these like bodily sounds, like swallowing to mention to name a few. One. Let me see. Maybe if I do that. No, not really. I don't know. Anyway, I'll try not to swallow too often. 7 hour minimum flight. Oh, they did upgrade you. Good. Man, that's awesome. And Peter says it's 50 degrees and pitch dark here in Maine. Question is monochrome the sample across camera makers, the Leica M versus the rest. I don't have a Leica M. Be kind of neat to get one. If Leica, you want to send me a free Leica M, I'll do a video on it. I got so many offers this month to do videos on products. I accepted one, so that's going to be coming in, but they haven't gotten back to me yet. And then another one I'm debating. I don't know if it's just a gimbal. I mean, gimbals are nice for video work, but for photography, there's not much use, right? So I was debating if I should get a free gimbal and I don't know. I mean, it's like a $400 gimbal, but I don't know how much use it would be for you guys, as viewers. Half the fun of being here is hearing your stories and experience. Wow. Yeah, I have quite a few stories I could talk about, not even photography related. I used to be a really good storyteller, probably 10 years ago, when I could remember what happened in my life. Now I can't remember anything. And if I was a photographer more than 10 years ago, I could look at the picture and say, oh yeah, you know what I mean? But now, those memories are gone forever, right? Because I didn't take any pictures between the ages of like 18 and 45. Between that range, I hardly took any pictures at all. And, cell phones weren't prevalent at all up until, 2005 anyway. So, yeah, bad on me. Use gimbals for big lenses. I'm talking about motorized gimbals, right? Where you're holding the camera and it rotates keeps everything level, not the gimbals you use with the big massive telephoto lenses. That's a different kind of gimbal. I'm talking about like motorized gimbals for video work where you're walking around and it keeps the camera steady. And Plato says construction going on in our house, no heating, so we are staying in the guest. Oh my goodness. Wow, it's nice you have a guest house. Unless you mean someone else's house, not your house. I don't know. That maybe you know how British and English, U.S. English and British English is different, so you say things differently. So guest house might mean somebody else's house, not your own house. But here, if you say you're staying in a guest house, usually it means it's your own separate house. Oh, let's see. And then Rick, Magrat is a tough cookie. And Edian says, I like the Benro ball head you use for interiors, the precision geared. Yes. Did you end up getting one, Edian? Because I use mine, mostly for work. I've never really used it for my personal photography. I just take out my little cheapo uh, Mi Photo tripod, a little tiny one in the field. Max has decided she doesn't like me watching her smartphone, thinks I should be paying her attention, yeah. Keeps trying to bite my hand. Yeah, Ellie's kind of a loner. She doesn't hang out with me like during the day a lot. She likes to go outside and run the yard and chase the squirrels. Um, and the only time she comes to see me is when she's hungry. Oh, man, if I say that word, she's gonna get on me. I just fed her, but it doesn't matter. If I say that word, Hungry, wow, man, that's all she can think about until I give her something, and she is on me. Oh, okay. So it's a place you're renting for a couple of days until, and I'm making the assumption we're talking to you're British. I don't even know Plato. I think actually you're here in the U.S., aren't you? I I, I don't know why I thought maybe you were British. And Edian says I looked at the Manfrotto, but Benro's better, but too expensive for the needs I have. Yeah, the Manfrottos, you have to spend some bucks. They have a low end one, which is terrible. And for about the same price, you can get the Benro, which is, 100 times better than the Manfrotto one at that price point. But then Manfrotto has a higher end one that I think is as good as the Benro, but it's not worth the extra money in my opinion. And then there's very high end gear heads that are like $1,000. I forget what they're called. I think they're called Arca Swiss gear heads, which is kind of confusing because we have Arca Swiss plates, but some real estate photographers swear by it. It's like their dream. It's like their Halo gearhead is the Arca Swiss gearhead. Oh, you're from Belgium. Okay. Thanks, Plato. Sorry. Oh, Fotis, how are you? Good to see you. And Edian says, I have a Lumix. I'm sorry. I have a Sumilex Leica 25 f1.4. It's great. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I'd like to get a Leica lens. I have a Carl Zeiss lens. I'm debating if I should keep it or not. I might sell it. It's like $1,000 lens, and I think it still sells for 500 or 600 used. But trade-in value is like 250, 300. It's not worth much as a trade-in. But I really loved that lens when I was using Nikon, but I don't use it now. And it's so heavy, I don't want to use it on my Micro Four Thirds. And I don't really do photography. I got this S5 now, right? I don't really want to use this for photography. Um, I don't know. I don't know. I take inventory every couple of months of all my crap that I want to get rid of. And then, when I see what I can get for it on trade, it just depresses me. And I can't do it. That's why I just can't sell anything, because it's like my Nikon D750, I might get 300 or 400 bucks for it on trade, and I'm like, well, for 300 or 400 bucks, I'd rather just keep it. And then every year it gets lower and lower and lower. There was a window where I could have traded it for like 800 bucks, right? And then when it was at like 800, I was like, crap, I ain't selling this for 800, you know? And now, like, I would love to get 800 bucks for my D750. And he says, it's hard to sell, it's a nightmare. Yeah, I bet. And Roberto's asking, says, you cleaned your sensor easy peasy, or microfiber cloth okay for lenses? Uh, I use microfiber cloth as long as they're clean. But there was a video by, what's his face? He always brags about he knows how to clean, you know, he brags about he knows everything. And he does know a lot, but angry photographer guy. He said microfiber cloth is, as soon as you touch them, the oils on your hands get on it, and then you rub that on your lens, and it's not good for it. So they have special lens cleaning cloths that you can buy. Apparently, David Crooks was telling me he buys his at Walmart. They're Leica, I think, but they're like wet wipes with rubbing alcohol in them or something to clean the lenses. That's probably the only way to clean a lens properly, is with one of those. But in the field, I just use microfiber cloth, and I shake them before I rub my lens with it, because just in case some sand or something got in it. I mean, not really sand, but any kind of dirt or anything on that microfiber that you can't see could potentially scratch the lens. So I shake it really hard before I wipe my lens. But over time, you're going to rub the coatings off on your lens potentially. So I don't think it's not a best practice to use microfiber cloth to clean your lenses. But people do it, I think the proper way is those little lens wipes that you can get. And they're not too expensive. So I should probably get some. You can probably find them on Amazon too. And Seraphin says you can't find a comparison between the two lenses. What two lenses? Oh, let me scroll up a little bit. Anyone have the Leica 25 and a used 25 f1.8? Considering replacing with a Leica sealed version. Oh, okay. I did see, I can't remember where, but I did see a video comparing the 25 millimeter Leica from Panasonic Leica to I can't remember if it was the Olympus version or the Panasonic version of the 25 millimeter f1.7 1.8, and they said, yeah, clearly it's sharper. It's a big price difference, and it may not be worth the price difference for some people, but yeah, it's sharper. So but I don't have that lens either. I'm content with the 25 f1.8. If I needed the weather sealing, I might be tempted to get that lens, but I don't really go out in inclement weather or harsh conditions generally when I shoot. So, and that focal length is not one that I use very much, to be honest. And Voigtlander will announce soon a 29 millimeter 0.8 micro four third lens. Oh my God. Wow. That's crazy. That's an interesting focal length, 29 millimeters. So it's a little longer than a standard 25, right? But not quite telephoto. That's an interesting. But 0.8. Wow. I don't even know how many stops faster that is. There's a formula. I forget what it is. But it's like you take this, divide it by the square root of that, then you add this and divide it again by the square root. It's like, and then you can calculate how many stops faster one f-stop is over another. I just can't remember the formula anymore. Don't you wish MFT had a PC shift lens? Oh, I think Laowa, I saw a thumbnail for a Laowa shift lens. I don't know if it was for Micro Four Thirds or not, but if they might make one for Micro Four Thirds or have it for a Micro Four Thirds mount. But I don't, I used to worry about that uh, because for my professional work, right, a shift lens would come in really handy sometimes. But what I do now is I just shoot wider and then straighten it out in post-processing. It's the same effect as using a shift lens. Theoretically, you lose megapixels doing it in software because you're cropping. Basically, you're cropping, right? Instead of using a real shift lens, you're cropping your photo because I shoot wider than crop in when I do the correction. And that works well enough for me. I don't want to spend $1,000, $2,000 on a real shift lens, right? I mean, I think it's the 13 or 14 millimeter shift lens from Canon is like 2,200 bucks. Some ridiculous price. Uh, a full frame lens, but man, yeah, I'm just gonna crop in. No alcohol in the lens, it'll remove the coating. Oh, okay. And then Dave Nelson says the wet wipes from Walmart are Carl Zeiss. Oh, okay, thanks, Dave. Thanks. Sorry, I'm a little late on the behind on the conversation, but I don't know what they use though. It smells like alcohol to me when I smelled it. And Randy, that angry photographer guy used rubbing alcohol to clean the lenses. He swears by it, and like I said, he claims he knows what he's talking about. Uh, so that's why when I got a wet wipe, David Crooks gave me one because I had a spot on my lens that wouldn't come off with the microfiber. Uh, that cleaned it right off, the spot, and it smelled like rubbing alcohol to me. And then Lasiba says, a UK guest house, a private house offering accommodation to paying guests. Oh, okay. Usually a bed and breakfast offering lodging at a gated community is a prison. uh, okay, yeah. I think a guest house here is like you have a big mansion, but you have a separate house for when you have guests, right? Here in the US, I believe. I don't know. I'm not in that. I don't have that kind of money to even think about things like that. But and Plato uses Q-tips and distilled water. Yes, definitely. That's definitely an approved method. And alcohol wipes on your TV will remove a special coating. Hmm. I've never had to wipe my TV though. The old TVs, the bulb, the tube TVs, I got one. It's like a 40-inch tube TV. Nobody wants it. I have to take it to the landfill. It's hardly used. But all the TVs now are plastic, right? The screens, unless you get the high-end ones. I need to shop some Black Friday deals for a 4K monitor. I found one for like 250 bucks. That's very tempting. And Rick says, a blower brush is my preferred way to clean a lens in the field. It should only be dust you're blowing off. A lens cloth is for cleaning in the studio, but always use a fresh one. Yes. Just breath vapor on the lens and wipe. Yeah, I heard that's not good either, but like I said, I've been cleaning, I don't know. I don't I guess if I was hardcore and had super expensive lenses, um, I would take more care and learn how to clean things properly. But um, you know, I'm out with my kit lens 99% of the time, right? Like here on my EM5, you know, I got my 14 to 150 kit lens, or I use the 12 to 32. So I'm not too worried about the lens coatings and all of that personally. Like I said, I'm not recommending anyone else do that, but for me personally, I don't sweat kit lenses and things using a microfiber cloth, because if I really ruin the lens, they're cheap enough. You can buy another one, right? Uh, and it'd probably be years of cleaning with a microfiber cloth before you really ruin a lens. But I don't know. I've been That's what I've been doing for the last 6 years, and all my lenses are still fine. Um, okay, Peter, we'll see you later. Thanks for dropping in. Um, Seraphin says, if they made that .8 lenses as autofocus, I would buy it. Oh, no, Voigtlander's not going to make an autofocus lens. John Yutz says I use UV filters on lenses to protect, plus I'm using saturated wipes, so I'm cleaning the filters, not the lens. Yes, lots of people do that, right? They put like a UV filter, a clear filter on the front of their lens to protect it. I did do that on some of my Nikon lenses. Like I bought a 20mm f1.8. It has a huge honking front element, 77. It's like big. I can't remember how many millimeters it is. But I bought a clear UV filter for that because that was an 800 and some dollar lens. So I bought a UV filter just for that reason. So if I have to clean it, I just have to clean the filter. But you know, our Micro Four Thirds lenses, the lens element's like this big. I mean, I guess a filter still makes sense. Um, I'm just the worst person when it comes to maintaining equipment and gear. Like I don't clean them that very often or do anything. I just go out and shoot. What's really amazing though is I rarely get sensor spots, you know, with Micro Four Thirds, uh, or at least my Olympus cameras. Whereas my Nikon, when I shot with that, I felt like I had to clean that sensor every few weeks because I kept getting sensor spots on it. Um, but Micro Four Thirds, I haven't noticed really. Time to time, like my EM10, I noticed, but that's 4 years old and I've never cleaned it. That's got some sensor spots on it. But my EM1s and my EM5s, uh, no problems at all. And Seraphin says, I also use UV filters, which I have to change every year because I see so many scratches. Wow. It could be turned sideways and shifted to get some perspective and depth also. Um, Isopropyl alcohol or industrial methyl spirit. Okay. I Now when it comes to shift lenses, there is one application that that I wouldn't be able to do in my photography, right? In real estate photography, it's not that important. You know, I can just point the camera down, tilt, shoot at a little larger aperture, and crop in. But shift lenses give you this option where if you're focusing particularly on something close up, you know, you can shift the lens so that it's effectively on the same focal plane as the subject. So you get a much wider depth of field using a shift lens on objects that are closer. Because you know, when you're close, your depth of field gets a little bit shallower, right? So a shift lens help mitigate some of that problem where the depth of field would be too shallow. Uh, I'm sorry, that would be a tilt lens, not a shift lens, but a tilt lens. Because usually they're tilt shift lenses. They do both. They shift and they tilt. But that'll give you that will mitigate some of that problem. Oops, some of that problem also. So DeMorcom, when you were talking about it, could be turned sideways and shifted to get some perspective and depth also. It just reminded me of that other application of using a tilt shift lens. The tilt part in particular to bring the focal plane a little bit more in line with the sensor so you have a wider depth of field. Yeah, Stephen Page is correct, I think. Just use a UV filter and then you just have to clean the filter. And they're cheap enough. I think you can buy a quality UV filter for like 20 bucks. And that'll protect the lenses. Ooh, a bulldog flipped his spit all over the place. Yeah, oh, I hate that. I'm not like a messy dog kind of person, you know? I mean, dogs, I don't mind get messy in the mud and play and all of that, but the slobber, yeah, that's a problem for me. I can't deal with slobber from a dog. It just grosses me out. Peter's reminding me when I talked about lens hoods. Yeah, I use a lens hood always, right? Even on my, it's in my bag, but every lens I have, even my 17, you know, I have a lens hood to protect it from physical damage for bangs, right? Little fine scratches and things to some extent, but a lot of that is caused by wiping with the dirty microfiber, I would imagine. But yeah, I always use a lens hood, everything. My 12 millimeter, you know, lens hood. The 20 millimeter, let me just show you that. See, with a 20 millimeter, it's a little bit harder because the lens hood, this is a full frame 20 millimeter. It's a little harder because the lens hood is so shallow, relatively speaking. There's not much room between that and the lens. So I used a UV filter. This is my Nikon. So the front element of this 20 millimeter f1.8 has never been without a UV filter on it. So if I take this off, yeah, just like the day I bought it, right? This is a great lens. This is a 20 millimeter f1.8 for Nikon f mount, and I didn't use it very much. I can't get much for it anymore. I think trade-in value's like not even 300 bucks. I paid like with tax like 900 bucks for that lens. Anyhow, maybe I use it on my Panasonic, but it's stupid to adapt like Nikon G lenses to the Panasonic, right? Because you don't get the autofocus or anything. So I don't mind mounting like my old vintage Nikon glass to it. This is my 105 f2.5. This lens rocks. It's got a little haze in it, so the images are a little bit soft, but I just love this focal length and how things render. Oh, Randy, you're on your third hood for 40 to 150. Wow. Residual oil remover with a lens tissue is obviously dirty, otherwise with distilled H2O. That's interesting. I've never heard of residual oil remover. And John, I agree. I don't believe in lens hoods, so they are a must. Where am I missing? I'm very confused with that statement. And Rick is saying, I asked Olympus whether cleaning solutions could damage the lens coatings. They wouldn't comment, but did say champagne. Oh, yeah. Champagne splashed on weddings could be a problem, yes. It takes a lot of junk on the front of the lens to mess up a photo. That's true. Because think about it, like, you know, you could take a picture, put your finger right in front of the lens, and it's not like you see a picture of your finger. You just get kind of, you can almost see right through your own finger. I mean, it takes quite a lot of junk on the front of the lens. The rear element, though, you have to be really careful. I'm extremely cautious of the rear element. You get any scratches or anything on that, yeah, that's a bigger problem than a little scratch on the front. So be extra careful with the rear element on your lenses. I am very careful with that. And Steve Page says UV for nighttime is a no-no. Light issues. Really? I've never heard that. And Randy says my Nikon DF gets sensor spots too, but never a problem on Olympus. Yeah, that's been my experience. And Plato says I had the same experience with my Canon, sensor spots galore. Maybe because it's just full frame, you know, and it's just subject to more dust. I don't know. I mean, they all claim to have like this ultrasonic, you know, blasting the dust off your sensor kind of technology, but yeah, on my Nikons, always sensor spots. And Seraphin says, Rick, I think it's bunk with today's lenses. I don't know. Oh, HCam is here. Hello, from Austria. When I had this A7 Mark III, Mark II, I was constantly cleaning the sensor with spots in Lightroom. Yeah, maybe it's a full frame sensor thing, right? Because it's my D750. But I don't know. Okay, DeMarco, we'll see you later. I know it's late in the UK and that whole eastern area. I wanted to start earlier, but I had some things to do today. Skip editing your photo. Oh, and I better make a note. Save it for next time. DeMorkin, right? I got like styluses, but I don't have a real pen. I picked up 2 styluses. Okay, here we go. So DeMorkin, all right. All right. And Seraphin says one of Olympus ambassadors would disagree, Rick, about lens hoods needed. Oh, yeah. Robin Wong is not a lens hood guy. I know that. And then Peter says, not so sure about cotton swabs. I heard those were definite no-go in firearms as they leave tiny fibers on the surfaces, so maybe it's even worse on optics? I think once the lens is dry, you can use a little blower to get the little particles off. And Dave Nelson said, you should have a challenge for those who have a CCTV lens. Pick a subject to take a picture of and send it to you. That would be like 2 people. I don't know. I'm curious. I'll have to give that some thought. Because I have one. I guess you have one. I don't know how many people bought one. I know, because I don't get a lot of sales from my affiliate links, like where people buy stuff when I recommend it. So I don't think too many people, maybe people have been buying it, and I wouldn't know because I don't ever see any sales on my affiliate links, or hardly any. But if I do a survey, it'll be interesting to see if people actually bought that lens, but I don't know. Looking for a Black Friday UK Olympus 1.4 teleconverter, can't find any good deals. 10 usual, all 249, 331, price fixed, secondhand at 50. Should I risk secondhand for a teleconverter? It depends. if you buy it from a place you can return it if there's a problem, yeah, I would go for it. That's the only way I would buy it, and it's what, 50 pounds? That's not, you're not risking a whole lot, but yeah, I would only buy it from a place I know I could return it, or had some other sort of buyer protection, you know. And Plato says the 35 f1.8 Ollie lens makes the same lens hood as the takes the same lens hood as the Pana 20 f1.7. Oh, really? That's interesting. You wouldn't think Panasonic and Olympus would use the same lens mounts, but I thought my 25 was right there, but it's not, because I was going to look. But it's a little twist-on lens hood, right? And Seraphin says, Rick, Robin Wong is very avid about not using a lens hood. I don't know why. I need to watch it again. I mean, he talks about, yeah, the coatings are good enough and blah, blah, blah. But, you know, uh, there are some cases when a lens hood is almost mandatory in photography. You know, particularly if the sun is shining right on the lens and you can just block a little bit of it with your lens hood. Because a lot of sunset pictures, the sun comes down pretty low, and that's definitely shining. You know, lens hood wouldn't make any, that's a terrible example. Lens hood wouldn't make any difference. But there's times when the sun is directly on the lens, and just having a little bit of a lip on the end of the lens with a lens hood can kill some of that glare. Because that light gets inside the lens barrel and starts bouncing around and causing flaring and all kinds of problems. You have some Kodak lens wipes? I doubt they're still good, John. Oh, Seraphin, you stopped using them with micro four thirds, really, in four thirds. And Stephen Page is clarifying that night shots of the sky using UV filters is a problem. Okay. And Marjorie says, I use a lens hood for the 12 to 40 as I'm always knocking that thing around. I don't bother with smaller primes. Yeah, I use it on everything. And UV filters and lens hoods started in the film days, old habits, yeah. Um, but yeah, lens hood just seems like your pictures have got to be better with a lens hood than without, you know. Not in every situation, who's going to tell in a blind test, but there are times when I know that sun is right on the lens and it's causing flare and it's a problem. Oh yeah, you use your hat sometimes. Yep. I use what I do sometimes. I used to do this. I don't bother anymore, but I used to use an umbrella to block the sun when I was doing outdoor shots for the architectural, you know, type stuff. Because, excuse me, the wide angle lens, you know, the sun is in the shot. So I would shoot wide, use an umbrella, and then crop in later and crop that part out. Because if I shot wide without the umbrella, the lens is going to cause the sun is going to cause a lot of flare on the lens. So I have to use an umbrella to block it so it doesn't cause flare on the image. And it's also going to mess with your exposure too, right? So putting an umbrella to block the sun on a wide angle uh, really helped me with my exposure and flaring issues that I had. But it's the same idea as your hat, right? You hold the hat out to block the sun. Yep, Dave Nelson uses lens hood, saved you an $800 lens. And do rubber lens hoods fit all lenses? Uh, well, you still have to buy the right ring size, right? Filter thread size, because they screw in like a filter. And not all rubber lens hoods fit all lenses. Even if you get the correct ring size on the lens hood, you have to make sure that the rubber lens hood doesn't extend out so far that it starts to cause vignetting because it's within the field of view of the lens. So it's more of a problem on wider angle lenses that have a rubber lens hood on that's too long in particular. But telephoto lenses, if you're like on micro four thirds, if you're like at, I would say 25 or 25 millimeters or longer, you'll be okay with a rubber lens hood. But when you get under 25 millimeters, you have to be a little bit more careful with the size of the lens, the rubber lens hood, that it doesn't extend out too far so that it's within the field of view of the lens. So I've had problems with 12 millimeter wide lenses. The rubber lens hood will get within the field of view. So I have to crop those parts out. I still use a lens hood on wide angle lenses, but when I have a rubber lens hood, sometimes I have to crop out the vignetting caused from the rubber lens hood. Because even though when I'm looking through the viewfinder, sometimes I don't see the vignetting, but when you push the shutter button, you know, because we have image stabilization, the sensor moves inside the camera, and then bam, you know, all of a sudden you have some of the lens hood in the shot, so you have to crop it out. So just be aware of that, or be conscious of that. I think at 25 millimeters and up, you're safe with the shorter rubber lens hoods, and then with the telephoto lenses, say 50 to 75 millimeters, you're fine with, you know, longer rubber lens hoods. You know, the longer the better in that case with telephoto lenses, in my opinion. Better to have and use than not have and need, yes. And Bob Tishmar says, Photodiox Pro TLT tilt shift adapters for most lenses. Let me look at that. You have to be a little bit careful with some of these. Unless you have one and you can tell me your experience has been okay with it, but let's see, here's one. This is Nikon F to Sony E. I'm sure they have these for micro four thirds, but the problem, let me show you on my EM5. Where's my EM5 at? It's about the same. The problem with these tilt shift adapters, actually I may need to, let me do it this way. Come on. Oh, sorry, hold on. This is my mom. Hello? Yeah. I'm right in the middle of something. Can you come back? Or I can pick it up tomorrow? Yeah, all right. Okay, I'm sorry. Because that's going to... Okay, yeah, I'm in the middle. All right, thanks anyway. Okay, bye-bye. Oh. Yeah, sorry, guys. She was complaining this morning that she can never get a hold of me, and I'm trying to figure out how is that the case? I talk to her 3-4 times a day. If she doesn't, if I don't answer 100% of the time, she's like, I can never get a hold of you. Anyway, let me show you a potential issue with using a tilt shift adapter, because I looked into it at one time, and I'm going to show you. Because the micro four thirds cameras are so small, and you're mounting, say, a full frame lens to potentially. Well, anyway, let me just show you. Hopefully it's obvious when I, dang it. How am I going to hold this up? I need to mount this camera back on the tripod, but that would take too long. Now I need a macro lens. I'm trying to show you guys. But you see this. All right, let me get the focus as close as I can first. All right, you see this you see the hump here right above the lens mount? This hump on the OMD cameras, and then also the tripod mount that I have right here. Right? That hump there, and if you're on a tripod, look how tight the lens mount is. It comes right up to the hump and it comes right up to the tripod mount, right? So that's a problem when the lens is shifting up and down. You don't have any room to shift the lens up and down. So just be aware of that when you buy one of these. It could be a problem. Whereas on the Pen F, you know, at least you have vertical movement because there's no viewfinder hump mount, right? But on the OMDs, like here's the Panasonic, it's not a problem. This is a GX80. You know, the rangefinder style, you probably can use these tilt shift adapters. I'm looking at this one. But you see how this thing shifts? I guess this one looks like it's shifting left to right. But if you want to shift vertically up and down, it's a problem. So just be aware of that. You're not going to have full 360 shift ability when you use a lens adapter because of those physical limitations. Because of those physical limitations of the OMD cameras. It's not as big a problem on the rangefinder styles like the Pens and the GX80. And John Yutze says, I use a rubber lens hood for shooting against glass and lens hoods when not available. Oh, that's a great idea. Rubber lens hood for glass. Yeah, because I ran into that. And a polarizer for shooting through glass. Yep, that's a great idea. And Seraphin says, the lens hood also depends on what you shoot in your style. Yes, I can see some examples of that. And then Rick Bear says, why are genuine Olympus lens hoods so expensive? Quite simply, a professionally designed lens hood costs money the same as the lens design. If you want expert design, you pay the price. Yes. Because, you know, particularly like these lens hoods that are like the pedal type, right? Where the sides are shorter than the top. You know, they design these very specifically for the focal length so that you don't get any vignetting at all when you use a lens hood. A rubber lens hood on wide angle lenses, like I said, you're going to get vignetting because they're perfectly round. They don't have pedals in them. Okay. That's a smooth ringtone. I got to change it for my mom's. I don't want my mom to have a Marvin Gaye ringtone. It's just weird. Makes me miss my mother before Alzheimer's. Yeah, I'm sorry, Seraphin. That's a terrible thing, Alzheimer's. And Rick Bear says, hi, Rob's mom. Yeah. She is so disappointed I told her not to come over. I don't know if you guys could hear her over the microphone or not. But she was really disappointed. Love my mom. Okay. I got to say that more often. Love you, Mom. Sorry. I need to say that more often. It was just never a thing in my family to say I love you, you know. My mom says it all the time, but me and my dad, we never said that. And robtrek says you might want to discuss tilt shift lenses versus software. Maybe, yeah. It's kind of an interesting topic because, you know, we look at tilt shift lenses and there are some compromises when you do it in software and some limitations in software, like I was talking about the different focus point, the depth of field. Uh, when you do a shift instead of, you just can't do that in software. You could, when you do a tilt, you can't do tilt in software. Um, You can get some good metal quality lens hoods that screw on for cheap. Yes, that's what I try to get the metal lens hood if I can. And if not, like my 12 to 32, let me show you that. This is a good lens hood. Of course, it's not here. Where is it? I can't find it. Oh well. Sorry, I can't find it. But you know, even my 45 millimeter f1.8, I have a little tiny lens hood on it. You know, 37 millimeter. But I can't use this on my kit lens. Although I think it has the same thread, filter thread, because it vignettes, because it's round. It's not a petal type, flower petal type lens hood. Oh, forgot my mic. I did do a video, Bob, on tilt, on a tilt adapter. Where is that? It's over there. I had a tilt adapter, not a shift adapter. It did tilt only to create some like fake blur, like the you know, that effect where you miniaturize everything. The tilt lens will do that because it'll blur like the top and bottom or the opposite ends of the tilt. And Dave says, can anyone please, who actually uses the MySet presets? I use them all the time. Absolutely. I use them. And that's why I never got the EM10 Mark III or the Mark IV. If they had MySets in them or custom settings like the EM1s, I might have upgraded to an EM10 Mark III or Mark IV. But because they don't have that, I'm just not buying it. That's a big deal for me, particularly in my professional work. It's in my other bag, of course. But like my EM1 Mark III, it has 4 custom settings, right? That I use. I have one set for bracketing. I have custom 2 setting for flash in manual mode. And I have custom 3 set for custom shutter mode for not bracketing, but taking multiple shots, hands-free. Because a lot of times I hold the tripod up over my head. So I'll start the self-timer custom shutter and hold the tripod up over my head so I can get a high angle shot, and it'll bracket the shots or take 3 shots plus or minus 1 EV. So it's an exposure bracketed shot, but in smaller increments, versus when I bracket shots in custom setting 1, I do plus or minus 2 EV and I take 5 shots. So, and when I'm out in the field or on a job, you know, I switch between 1, 2, and 3 constantly. Well, particularly between custom 1 and 2, I switch constantly. So it's nice to have that on the dial. And that's how I used to work when I did EM10 Mark II, because I programmed the MySets to the mode dial, and I would just shift between custom 1 and custom 2, or MySet 1 and MySet 2, and MySet 3 constantly when I was doing a real photo job. So yeah, absolutely I use it. And even in my photo walks and things like that, I like to switch between custom settings for different kinds of shots. So like if I want to do a black and white, I got different settings for my black and white photo. Like I have tone curve shifts, like the highlights and shadows, versus for color pictures, I don't really push the highlight and shadow tone curve much. So some, or this, and the saturation's different. Um, so it lets me quickly switch. So yeah, anyway, long story short, I use it a lot. Uh, Yeah, Bob, on the EM10 Mark II, they called it My Sets, and a lot of the cameras that Olympus came out with during that time, the TruePic 7, all the TruePic 7 cameras from Olympus used My Sets. And then when we went to the TruePic 8, I think they called them custom modes. No, I don't, it's not any different. C1 through C4 is the same as the preset as far as I know. I can't think of any differences if there are any. Yeah, the My Sets and the custom one, yeah, functionally there's no difference that I can think of. Other than the custom modes are already on the mode dial versus with My Sets you have to program the mode dial or the function buttons to be a My Set. Why would one shift the lens relative to the optical axis of the sensor? What does it do? What is it good for? Well, a lot of times, like I said, people do it normally for that miniaturization effect, right? Where you make everything look mini. It's the same filter as, I'll show you. Olympus just made it an art filter. But let me, oops, that's not the right one. Yeah. So if I go to, oops, where is it? Oh, it's all grayed out because I'm plugged in. Let me put this into art mode. So it's this one, diorama, right? So the idea being is you want, it's hard to tell, but the diorama filter is giving you that, the diorama filter is giving you that sort of miniaturization effect, and that's what a tilt, the tilt lens would do. Let me just double check the question. Let me double check your question before I answer. Where did it go? Why would a shift lens? Okay, a shift lens. Okay, shift, yeah, tilt and shift is different, right? If you're asking specifically, I was talking about a tilt lens where it tilts. If it tilts, it allows you to get, you know, causes that blur effect for diorama, but if you're trying to get a little more depth of field sometimes, you have the opposite effect where you can tilt the lens to get more depth of field on other subjects. But a shift lens allows the lens to look higher or lower without distorting the object. Because when you're tilting your camera down and up to get more, like if I want to get this table in the shot, I have to point the camera down. But with a shift lens, you don't have to point the camera down. You can shift the lens down, and that'll keep your lines straight instead of, because as you know, when you point your camera down, your lines start to diverge, right? This way or this way. You start getting keystoning errors. So a shift lens allows you to keep your camera straight and level, shift the lens so that it actually changes the field of view lower or higher without having that keystoning type error where your lines start to diverge or converge. So that's kind of the idea. I hope that made sense. If you watch some videos on tilt shift lenses, you can see it visually instead of me just trying to use my hands. You can see it visually, but that's the idea. Oh, good looking honky says, we use diorama on film set. Oh, that's cool. And on my old EM1, I was able to assign my set to one of the dial settings. Yes. You're an old adult film star. That's interesting. Jeffrey Duda says, aha, I might be thinking of a saved menu items in Star or my menus. Oh yeah, that's different, Jeffrey. Having a custom menu is different than having a my set. In the old film days, an 8x10 film camera tilted the front element for depth of field, I believe. Yeah. I believe you're right. They had that accordion style lens that would tilt up and down. I think that was more for parallax error though, right? I think it's for parallax error that they would have that shift ability. So you know, if David Tellett is still here, he could explain it really well because that's what he does, right? He has all those old film cameras. But the older film cameras, some of them had the shifting ability built in. I guess they still do. I don't know why I say older. I think a lot of the large format film cameras have that shift ability to correct for parallax error from what you're seeing. Because sometimes you didn't see right through the same lens, like the twin reflex type cameras that had the dual lens on the front. You would try to correct for parallax error. I believe. I'm getting that mixed up. That's just too old for me to think about. And then Good Looking Honky is asking, if you were doing a car scene, is it possible to use diorama for action? I assume you mean for video. It's not really my area, but I don't see why not. It's just a creative filter to create a miniaturization effect, right? By blurring the opposite ends of the focal plane. So, yeah, sorry, I can't help you with that. I'm not that creative. Rick Bear says, genuine versus OEM lens hood price. I definitely buy the cheaper OEM lens hood, but for us professional, I'd say genuine price is justified. Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. And Dave says, for the first time, I know the secret of tilt shift lens. Thanks. Oh, okay. So I did explain that enough for you to kind of get the idea. Okay. And then Randy says, you may be right for parallax. Yeah, I think because people would use those frickin' cameras for close-up photography and there'd be a parallax error, so they had to shift. Like some of the twins reflex cameras, they had lines in them, right? That would tell you where the parallax error is. It wouldn't correct for it, but you could see lines inside the viewfinder of where the parallax starts and ends. But anyway, yeah, I've never used one, so I can't speak firsthand. I'm just talking academically speaking. I think that was the reason. And Serge says, I just bought a Luminar 4.3 for 984 pounds on AliExpress. What is that? A Luminar. Oh, Luminar. Luminar is that software. Okay, for $9. Okay, good. David Teller says, nope, I can't. No experience with tilt shift. Maybe someday. Oh, you're still here, Dave. Okay, thanks. Rick Bear says, you missed my meaning. Keystone adjustments in the OMD software is shift lens is what I was suggesting you discuss. Yes, yes. Yes, I understand. I may have misspoke. Uh, because you definitely that's what the keystone adjustments in the OMD cameras are for correcting keystoning errors. But a shift lens is the same thing. It's supposed to correct keystoning errors, but do it for real by keeping the line straight so you don't lose any resolution. And Randy says, no, parallax error is for old range finders and twin reflex. Yes. Uh, but yeah, I remember some of the lenses did tilt up and down, but I don't know why they did. I know some of the lenses did shift though for parallax error. In the old 8x10s, they would look at the ground glass that looks right through the, yes. Yeah, and they would use a little loop, right? They would use a loop and just kind of look through the ground glass. Yeah. You know the only reason I know that is because I watch Nick Carver time to time. If you guys haven't watched Nick Carver's channel, he's awesome. He always shoots, I don't think he shoots 8x10s often, but he shoots like these 16x7 wide cameras. Uh, and Randy says, I have this four volume set written in 1910 called The Library of Amateur Photography. Amazing read. Yeah, that is cool. God, written in 1910. It's probably kind of a lot of the things they talked about then probably still apply today. And you're a huge fanatic in photography in very, very old days. I read very old books. Yeah, it's kind of neat to kind of look back, right? And see how they talked about whatever subject is back then versus how we might talk about it today, particularly with things that are technically related, right? And we tend to get kind of tied up in all the gear these days with the electronics and our cameras and all the technology, but the craft of photography in of itself really hasn't changed that much. And back in the day, they coated the glass with chemicals. Well, they still do today. They just do it differently, right? They put them in these vacuum chambers, right? And spray the lenses or atomize the lenses somehow, like gold plating, like electro gold plating. Somehow they do that on glass lenses now. I don't know. I don't know the process exactly. I watch, over time, right? You pick up little things here and there. And then Albert, it says, do you think that the variable ND filter is the same as individual set filters? Um, I think the main difference really is that the variable ND filters work a little bit like a polarizer, right? So there may be some polarizing effects with an variable ND filter on top of the reduction of light. But in practice, there's not much difference, practically speaking, from a variable ND filter versus fixed ND filters. Now, if you really want to get down to the nitty gritty, right? A variable ND filter has two pieces of glass. So in theory, you're going to get less image quality with a variable ND filter. So if you buy a very cheap low-end variable ND filter, it's inevitably going to affect your image quality, make the images look out of focus or muddy. And there's additional potential for flaring in between the two pieces of glass. So there's all kinds of technical problems you could run into with a variable ND filter. So many professionals choose to use single glass ND filters, right? Fixed ND filters. And a lot of times they use the ones that slide in and out. They look like pieces of square glass versus the screw-on type. So they use very high quality single ND filters. My photography is not at a level that I need to invest in that kind of system. I'm fine with a good quality variable ND filter. I use a brand. what's the brand called? K&F. K&F makes about a 40, it's between 40 and $60. It's a variable ND filter. They make cheaper ones. Don't buy the cheap ones. Never buy the cheapest variable ND filter you can get because it will mess up your image quality. Generally, you can buy decent single ND filters that are not variable, but ones, they have a certain rating. You can buy those a little cheaper without worrying about image quality, but the variable ND filters is a problem because I've bought cheap ones and they're crap. And then I bought this one by K&F. I think I paid $45 or $50 for it. It's a Nano X variable ND filter. It's really good. And the fixed ND filters, you can stack, right? If you have that sort of square mounting system, you can stack those to get more effect. And you can buy higher ratings usually. You can buy a 10-stop ND filter in a single piece of glass versus a variable ND filter is usually only 5 stops. And that's it. So I think that covers everything. Okay. Hopefully that answers your question. All right. So like I said, practically they're the same, but there are differences with variable ND filter. You have to buy a good one, and that typically they only go up to 5 stops, whereas the individual set filters you can stack and get multiple stops. Okay. Let's see. Oh, thank you, John. And Dave, let's see. Plato, I'm not so much on the technical side of cameras, just try to get the exposure composition right. Most importantly, tell a story. Yes, I agree. Oh, hey, DeMorgan. I was, my friend I was to go with died an hour. Oh, I'm sorry. Wow, that's horrible news. Really, my condolences. That's terrible. Um, Peter says, one of two, thank you for the explanation. I do have proper imagination, so not hard to grasp the concept of lens shifting. So it is to fix the line converging due to perspective projection. Yes, that's a very good way to articulate it. I haven't been articulating things too well lately. More coffee, maybe. And Rick is saying that he's speaking from the perspective of a professional photographer looking for maximum quality. So the comments may not apply to enthusiasts on a budget. Yeah, I mean, if you're on a budget, there's a lot of compromises you can make without really uh, affecting your image quality, right? Because until your skill set is at a point to where you really understand and appreciate what the pro prices, professional type grade optics and accessories are for, just save some money until you get really good. Because sometimes it's hard to tell the difference between, why do people spend so much money on this thing when I can get the same thing for like 10% of the cost or 20% of the price. And yeah, time to time, there's going to always be those examples where this is exactly the same as this, but you're paying 5 times more for the brand, right? Yeah, that happens all the time. But a lot of times, there is a reason you get what you pay for, and professional gear. Like this Manfrotto 55 Pro tripod. My God, this thing is probably 10 years old, but it's still solid as a rock. And you can't say that about, cheaper tripods, right? They just break down and, people, many professional photographers will tell you, yeah, we bought the $100, $200 tripods. They don't last. I run into these problems and these problems. Um, just one example. There's many examples. But as an enthusiast, yeah, save some money. I save as much money as I can all the time. I make compromises on quality of gear all the time. When it comes to my enthusiast type of personal photography, for professional photography, oh my God, I will buy the best I can afford, because I can appreciate the difference between, sort of a non-pro level type gear versus pro level type gear. Um, anyway, okay. And Peter says, 2 of 2, wish I could use it when I shot a really tall cathedral in my city, but the tilt was probably too extreme anyway. Fixed it somewhat in software though, yeah. Yeah, you would use a shift for very tall things, a shift lens, and tilt to change to take the lens off axis from the sensor. Yeah, thank you, Rick. Rick is saying to DeMorgan that you're with friends who reach out, our support and sympathy, know that we pray for you. Yes. Thank you for saying that, Rick. And Randy says, I've seen enthusiast photos with budget equipment that is amazing. A lot from the guys and gals here. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, budget gear doesn't mean budget photos, man. You can get professional photos on budget gear, no question. Um, but usually pro gear is a lot to do with durability too, right? Uh, yes, you're here. Better than being alone. Yeah, it's tough. I've lost family close to me, like my dad passed away and my aunt passed away recently, but my uncle a couple years before that. So it's hard. Yeah, I haven't lost a close friend though. You know, uh, family is one thing. That's a whole nother level. I haven't lost a close friend. John Yusei says, I'm actually quite content with the IQ I get with enthusiast gear that I have. Some of which I have is a bit old. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's different levels of gear. I mean, if I was there's some enthusiast level, like not pro grade stuff that I use. If I used it all the time, I might consider getting the pro grade version. But there's extreme examples. Like I have a tripod here that's $30 at Best Buy. That thing, yeah, I have to be so careful with it. It's so fragile. It's super lightweight, plastic. I mean, tripods are a really good example of what you get, what you pay for. Because very cheap tripods and light stands, they break so easily. And there's some things I would never pay pro grade for, no matter what. Like umbrellas, I'm gonna buy the cheapest one I can get. I'm not buying a $40 or $50 white umbrella, see-through umbrella, when I can get, two of them for 20 bucks. Um, I don't think I'll ever get to the point that I'm that professional that I need a professional white umbrella. So I'm gonna buy enthusiast level. Like I'm gonna buy the cheapest one I can get and the cheapest light stands. Except for my pro work, I do use a really, really good light stand, solid steel, light stand, not this aluminum. Because you can buy light stands for like $15, but they're made of some, not aluminum, but some cheap tin metal. And those things break really easily. But my pro grade light stand, I think I paid $50 or $60 for it, but it's all steel. So it's not lightweight by any means for a light stand, but it's solid. And Rick says, what would be good is if robtrek followers could set up a geographical group so we could meet and share equipment locally. I was happy to let you use my pro lenses as long as I'm with you. Yeah, I do that with my photo club. Like if David, You know, anybody in my photo club that has an Olympus camera, if you want to borrow any of my lenses while we're out on a photo walk, just let me know. I know David Crooks does time to time. Like, I let him use my fisheye most recently, and then my 75mm f1.8. You know, whatever lens I have, you guys are welcome to use in the photo club, and then just after the photo, I'll give it back, right? Because that can make the difference if you're thinking about buying the lens. Like, I know David Crooks borrowed my 75 to 300, and after using it, he said, I'm just going to save up and get the 100 to 400, right? Uh, yeah, yeah. Rick almost lost Magrat recently. That's true. And the group of Wonder people gave us such great support. Yeah, I know. I love the community we have here in my little chat section. I know as a channel, it's not really good for my channel to have live streams because I lose subscribers. I get complaints time to time that they want to see uh, more tutorials and things and gear reviews, but it's okay. I mean, I try to do both. Like I think my next video is going to be on Flash, right? But you know, community is important too, right? If you know, for life in general, I think community is important. You know, I do a lot of this for myself. The live streams and chat, it really inspires me to go out and do more for everyone. Uh, but you know, anyone in Central Florida? No, not me, obviously. It all depends on what you want to achieve and what is good enough for you. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I always buy, for my personal stuff, I always buy enthusiast level gear. You know, like this, this is really cool. They sell these for 50 bucks, right? These little, you know, these things, right? These little tripod things. It's not a tripod, but these little stands. I got this for $6, you know, because I don't use it that often. I ain't spending 50 bucks for this. But I know the $50 one is probably a lot smoother and a lot better made and things work, you know, better. But this gets the job done and it's strong enough. Uh, this is actually made of aluminum. Um, but typically these are about $20 as an enthusiast level price. I got this for $5 because it was an open box and they sent it to me. So that's cool. And Marjorie says the lives are great. I only started watching these in the last month or so and have learned so much from Rob and the other viewers. I can't always make it, but I still have fun watching the replays. Oh, well, thank you, Marjorie. Oh, speaking of which, I have to go. I have my photo editing live stream at 6:30. So it's been great chatting with everyone. I wish I could stay all night. I'll have to do that one day, like a 24-hour stream. But for now, I have to, man, I really want to read everybody's comments because there's always good things. What's the name of this aluminum thing? Let me check my shopping cart real quick. I'll answer this one last question, then I gotta go. Uh, oh, what? I ordered this months ago. Let me just type in. It's called a stand of some kind. Here it is. I'll put it on the screen for you. Um, Matthew, right? Matthew is asking me. Where's my... It's only $10 here. This thing. So I got an open box one for like $5. I bought this in February. So the only thing you have to be careful with is is this thread here is too long for our Olympus cameras. The screw that comes out here. So I put a couple of washers to give it a little more space, because otherwise you won't be able to mount your camera on. It'll be loose, right? Because this screw is too long. So I put a couple of metal washers in here to give it a little more spacing. But other than that, it works fine. And it's very stiff, but it should come with an Allen wrench to tighten things and stuff. But okay, I have to run, everyone. Thanks, thanks everyone. I wish I could stay and chat more, but I have to go see my photo editing folks here, which is a lot of you here already. But I'm going to move on. So you guys, thanks again for spending your couple hours with me. I really appreciate that you take that time out of your day to spend it with me. It's always a treat for me, and hopefully I was able to help some of you. And I'll be back on Sunday